Inflation. What is inflation? A simple way to define inflation is an increase in the price you pay for goods, but that only tells part of the story. It could also be seen as a decline in the purchasing power of your money. Inflation is also defined as a sustained increase in the average price level, or it is the rate of change of the consumer price index. Mathematically, it can be expressed as inflation is equivalent to consumer price index in month of current year less consumer price index in same month of previous year divided by consumer price index in same month of previous year times 100. Consumer price index is a measure that examines the weighted average of prices of a basket of consumer goods and services, such as transportation, food and medical care. What are the causes of inflation? There are three main causes of inflation. Demand pull inflation is the most common. It's simply when demand for a good or service increases so much that it outstrips supply. If sellers maintain the price, they will sell out. They soon realize now have the luxury of raising prices, creating inflation. A second cause of inflation is cost push inflation. This isn't as common as demand pull inflation, because it only occurs when there is a shortage of supply combined with enough demand to allow the producer to raise prices. A third cause of inflation is an overexpansion of the money supply. The money supply is not just cash, but also credit, loans and mortgages. When loans are cheap, then there will be too much money chasing too few goods, creating inflation. Inflation creates winners and losers. Knowing the wins is important for understanding why it is sometimes allowed to persist. Who are the winners in inflation? People who have investment in both bonds and stocks lose during the time of inflation. The value of their money and securities depreciates in terms of purchasing power. The elderly are also losers in inflation, because they are receiving fixed monthly pensions. Any amount of inflation will reduce the amount of goods and services it can purchase. Laborers and office workers who are getting a fixed amount of money monthly cannot keep up with the accelerating inflation. Who stands to gain from inflation? Landowners gain during inflation as the value of land and other fixed assets appreciate. The income of producers increases when inflation takes place. As the price of commodities increase, it results to higher returns for business firms. Is deflation better than inflation? Deflation is in sharp contrast to inflation. It is a sustained decrease in the average price level. Is it good for the economy? The answer is no. If there is deflation in the economy, producers will lose and eventually shut down their businesses, because a substantial decrease in price will adversely affect their incomes. The effect will be higher unemployment, lower output, taxes and national output. What is hyperinflation? In Bolivia in the early 80s, inflation reached 116,000%, where a sack of money could only purchase a bag of grocery. This situation is called hyperinflation, where the price increases are so out of control that the concept of inflation is meaningless. Hyperinflation is among the worst catastrophes that can befall an economy. It can destroy output and destabilize societies. What is stagflation? Stagflation comes from two different words: stagnant and inflation. This simply means that the economy is experiencing increasing inflation and unemployment at the same time. What is Phillips curve? Stagflation and Phillips curve goes hand in hand in modern macroeconomics to depict a period of uncontrollable price inflation combined with slow output growth. The Phillips curve contradicts the traditional idea of explaining stagflation through the relationship between unemployment and the rate of inflation in an economy. It states that the rate of change in wages paid to labor will be higher if unemployment goes down in an economy.
created using Powtoon.